Hello, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us today for the Westpac Social Change Fellowship webinar. My name's Susie, I work in the Westpac Bicentennial Foundation, and today we've got the CEO of the Foundation, Susan Bannigan, with us, as well as one of our 2016 Social Change Fellows, Dungle. Hi guys. Thank you for your interest so far in the Westpac Social Change Fellowship. This is one of 5 programs that is offered by the Westpac Bicentennial Foundation. And for those that don't know, the foundation was launched in 2014 as a gift to Australia to celebrate Westpac's bicentenary, which is taking place next year in 2017. And it's a $100 million scholarship fund awarding 100 scholarships a year forever, of which the Social Change Fellowship is one. So this is the second time we've offered this, and the first time we've done a webinar about it, so hopefully we can give you lots of information to help you with your application. Just a bit of housekeeping. You're all on mute, and to answer questions you just need to type them in, and we encourage you to just type away whenever the question comes to you, and we'll pause periodically to answer those questions. We expect there's going to be a lot, so if we don't get to your question today, we will send out all the answers in the next few days, probably next week. And of course, this is being recorded, and we'll send you the link as well as the link being available on our website. Over to you, Susan.
Thank you, Susie. That was a great introduction. And welcome everyone to our first Westpac Social Change Fellowships webinar. I'm just going to step through the agenda for today. You're going to hear a bit from me for about the first 10 to 15 minutes, and I will pause after each of the agenda items to take questions. And then I'm going to hand over to our delightful 2016 Westpac Social Change Fellow, Dungle. Now, let me just kick off then with the first of our agenda items, which will be the scholarship proposition. Then we'll cover off the eligibility questions around, are you eligible to apply for a Westpac Social Change Fellowship? And this is a theme that comes up often through our Westpac Scholars email, so I look forward to some questions here. I will also step through the selection process so you can get a good sense of when you will be contacted throughout the upcoming months and at what point you will be engaged for further activities around the actual selection process. I'm then going to spend some time on what does a successful applicant look like, and talk more deeply around the attributes of a Westpac Social Change Fellow. We're then going to share some tips around how to pull together your development plan, which I'm sure will also be able to share some interesting insights. And then I'm going to bring it all together by showing you a story of a few of our Westpac Social Change Fellows and how their background, their initiative, and their development have all come together. And then we'll take on from there. Now, let's just turn to our next page, the Westpac Social Change Fellowship. Now, this is a fellowship that is one of 5, as Susie mentioned, which is very specifically oriented around experiential education. All 4 of our other programs are in the higher education space. And why we established this program is that we recognize that no matter where you come from, whether you're from education, the not-for-profit sector, government, Westpac, industry, there are leaders everywhere that are doing amazing work in the community, and that we've got tough social problems that are not actually changing, and that we need to bring together and invest in the capability of leaders to actually achieve change and innovate around those things that we actually need to move to create a better society for all Australians. So I'm going to tell you now a little bit more, just to run through what the Social Change Fellowship offers. First up, it offers a program valued up to $50,000 to tailor your own experiential education package. And experiential education really is things like a study tour, building your networks overseas, the opportunity to do research and engage with others that are operating in the field that you're in, to engage with mentors who can help you achieve and develop your initiative. And it's about what you need. So I can expect that as I've seen with this year's round of Social Change Fellows, that those fellowships are actually supporting very different personal development opportunities. And it has flexibility to be part-time or full-time up to a maximum of 6 months. And part of the offering of our fellowship will also require your availability in April 2017 for our Westpac Scholars Summit. Now, this is actually a very critical element of the fellowship because it brings together the 100 scholars of 2017 over 2 days to network and learn from each other and start to sort of really kick off what this program is about over the years to come, which is about the diversity and capability that comes when you bring 100 people together, whether they're postdocs, postgraduate, undergraduates, social change fellows. You actually have something, if you are a social Westpac scholar, something very common amongst all of them, and that is it's about leadership, it's about generosity of spirit, and it's about truly wanting to make other lives better for everyone. So there is this element that ties all of those scholars together, and I have to say, after having seen our first inaugural summit in 2016, this is where the magic happens, and it's going to be an important part of your fellowship experience. And I'll leave Om to talk a little bit more about that later. So what that summit then kicks off is lifelong access to the Westpac 100 Scholars Network, which is the community of scholars that grows by 100 scholars every year forever. And so this community will have those that are technology specialists, social change specialists, Asian relationship specialists, researchers, and it's this diverse group that actually work together to contribute to each other's growth and prosperity that make this, I think, a very rich element of the fellowship. And what we'll have are 10 fellowships awarded this year in 2016, and that'll be national. As I can see from the scholars that we had this year, we had great representation from across Australia, looking at programs that we're delivering both at a local level, a state level, and national. And applications are now open until the 19th of August. So it's the time is coming to that critical point, which is only a couple of weeks away. We will have a decision on all of the final participants at our board meeting in December this year. Now, are there any questions that we want to address there? No. So our Westpac Social Change Fellowship eligibility. Okay, now this is the meaty stuff. So your proposed program of study must be about personal development and learning. Now, it is not about funding a project. We have support for the development of your personal capability. You do need to have an idea, but it is really about you as an individual and how you will grow by the development program that you submit as part of your application. So we do not fund projects, events, tertiary qualifications, or sponsorships. Your study program must underpin a worthy and viable social change initiative that benefits Australia. So what I find is that you're generally an individual that has already been working hard to get an idea off the ground. And one of the things that will help you truly achieve that desire and have that impact is to be able to invest in your own capability to do so. But you do need to have already an idea underway that you have been working hard on. So this is a really important aspect of our scholarship as well. And your initiative must address a clearly defined social need in Australia and at a local, state, or national level. You will need to have done research to understand what that social need is and make sure that it is something that you can clearly articulate based with clear data and sort of research that you will have done to define that social need is truly unmet in Australia. You'll need to be able to demonstrate that you have support from the community. So we're very much about backing ideas that the community wants, not what we think they want. So this is very much an important part that you'll see is a thread throughout the application and also about the reference. It is a thread throughout our selection process as well. So this is absolutely a really key element of your consideration for eligibility. You must be able to demonstrate that your personal development program will directly benefit your ability to deliver your initiative. There must be a reasonable connection between what you are looking to spend your time on your fellowship and the initiative that you're seeking to deliver. If there's no connection, it's not going to be successful in terms of an application. We must be able to demonstrate how your initiative's innovative approach to the social problem you are trying to solve. And innovative doesn't mean necessarily it is out of the box, never been heard of. Innovative can mean it's innovative for your community. It is something that's not been done here, but you're seeing that it's happening around the world. And what your fellowship will do is give you those opportunities to engage where people are doing these types of programs and bring that concept back into your community where it is innovative. So it's innovative in terms of new to the region in which you work. It may be an innovative approach to the issue that you're looking to address. It may be an innovative in the way that you're going to collaborate as a result of your fellowship. There are a number of ways that you can consider this, and we think very broadly about innovative, but we need to see that you've understood what you're trying to do and consider what else is happening in the market in the space that you're in. Then we're going to have to make sure that as a part of a sort of looking back, this is a really important part, that you choose correctly a community referee and an expert referee. And I think of a community referee who can really talk to the fact that you're meeting a defined need, a social need in their community, and that you've got the backing of that community in regards to both your initiative and your proposed development plan. Your expert referee will be more likely someone that if you're operating in the area of mental health, you'll be wanting to really tap into someone who is an expert in the field of mental health to comment on the viability of the proposed initiative that you have, that you want to underpin your personal development plan. So shall I pause for any questions?
You shall. So one of the questions is, how advanced in development does the idea need to be?
I think I look at it across a couple of points. That you have engaged with the community that you're seeking to benefit, that you've done the research to demonstrate that your idea is innovative in the way that I described, and that you have a commitment to the social, to creating social change. And it may not necessarily be demonstrated through your current initiative, but you've actually had a long-term commitment to actually driving social change. So those are sort of the three sort of themes that I would pull out of that.
Can the research component be complementary to the field and therefore the project initiative, or specifically designated to personal development and learning?
I think of research, and I'm hoping I'm going to answer this correctly, in terms of if it's research in terms of the issue of, say, mental health in Indigenous communities and understanding what that is, that will actually help you achieve your ability to deliver on a project effectively to address that. That's completely appropriate. If it's research to develop you as an individual, so building what are leaders in this space doing, and what does a leader look like in the area of addressing mental health issues, that's completely acceptable as well.
There's a question here around examples of personal development and learning. Are you going to cover that a bit later?
Yes, I'll cover that. I'll actually have some really interesting examples from 3 very different social change fellows that we will hopefully draw that out, and if we haven't, we'll make sure that we you raise that question again, please.
So just another couple of questions on this one, Susan. Can the expert referees be from within your organisation, so for example on a board of directors?
Yes, they can. They need to be able to demonstrate that they are an expert in the field at which you're looking to operate in, and that can clearly be from your board.
Great. And can formal volunteering be integrated into the fellowship?
Yes, it can.
That's great. Okay, and in terms of examples of the types of thing that fellowship funds, you'll also cover that a bit later.
Yes, I will.
All right.
And I'd also encourage you to have a look at our funding guidelines, as that is actually covered in, let me just see, in the sections in the 2.2 of the application guidelines for this year on our website, and will also be covered off in the frequently asked questions, and I'll give you some examples specifically of those, some of the things that people have done. But this is the 2nd year of the program, so we are open to new ideas in this space as well. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the selection process, where to from here once applications close. And that will kick off with the close on the 19th of August. There'll be a stage of which we do eligibility checks just to ensure that your application is meeting all of the eligibility checks that are outlined in both the application and the application guidelines. You will receive a communication at that point if your application is deemed ineligible based on just a pure assessment of the eligibility criteria. And then the foundation will undergo some activities around ranking each of the applications, which will then lead us into stage 2. Now, stage 2, we will have approximately 50 to 60 candidates come through. You will be invited to do a video interview. Now, this is an interview where you are asked questions by the system, and you have a certain amount of time to respond. It's recorded, and then those videos are then reviewed as part of a further assessment of your application. And really what we're looking for there is probably your ability to talk to your initiative, your ability to communicate and inspire as apart from some of the elements that would come through in your written application. You will then receive, again, a communication as to whether you are going to progress to stage 3. So you would receive that communication around mid-September to late September. Stage 3 involves a telephone interview with one of the regional panel members in your state. Now, the regional panel is drawn from both the university sector, its secondary school sector, the industry, not-for-profit, social sector, and a range of different sort of areas of mental health, youth, justice, etc. So it's a very diverse panel, and what we will look to is ensure that your panel interview is held with someone who is very likely going to be an expert in the field of which you operate in. So 24 to 32 candidates will then progress to the national panel, at which will be held on the 11th of November. And then from the national panel, which is brings together a representative from each of the states and territories to convene to have a look at the shortlist to make a final recommendation to the Westpac Bicentennial Board, who meets in the middle of December. And so the items noted in red are points where you can expect to receive communication with a view that on the 19th of December we will communicate the outcomes of the final finalist list, with a view that you will also be involved then in the summit in April 2017. So if you cannot make the summit in April 2017, that needs to be flagged as part of your application, because it will be taken into consideration, as it is, we believe, a critical element of your fellowship. Susie, should we stop for any questions?
There's a couple here around that kind of application selection process.
Yep.
One is, how many applications are you expecting, and how many, I guess, successful ones?
Yep.
Out of that, and then also, will unsuccessful applicants receive any feedback on their ideas and application?
Yeah. Now, I'll give you some feedback in terms of numbers just based on a sample of 1, which was last year's round. We had over 200 applications for 10 fellowships. Ultimately, we did give out 12 fellowships. We had not everyone asks for the full funding. It's really a reflection of what it is you need to invest in your development plan, and that can then derive perhaps opportunities for more fellowships to be offered. So the final number will always be around 10 to 12. The number of applicants that we start with will really depend. Last year, although we had 200 applicants, I'd say probably about 60 of them were ineligible. And I'm hoping that this year, based on having had one round gone through and this opportunity to do the webinar, we'll have a much richer pool of eligible applicants. And the selection process, as I've highlighted on the slide, will give you a sense of how those numbers flow through the process.
And if you're not available or overseas at any stage in the application process, can that be conducted remotely?
The video, absolutely, you can do that wherever you are. The telephone interview as well. So those are the two points where you will need to do something in addition to your application. And then after you are successful at the board meeting, we do police checks, so there will need to be an ability to contact you during the month of December. And then during January, the foundation will work with you around finalising your development plan.
And are scholars actually, or the applicants actually required at the National Selection Panel?
No, they're not.
And that's stage 4. There's also, you don't need to pay for the summit or include that in the cost?
All the costs are funded by the foundation. Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to what does a successful applicant look like? Well, you're going to hear from one today, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more in a minute about 3 others. But let me just give you my, off the top of my head, sort of sense of when I looked at applications last year and now reflect on what actually, what came through in terms of success. You need to be able to demonstrate a commitment and leadership in creating positive social change. And I think we mentioned this earlier, that this isn't your first foray into the space of social change. You do need to demonstrate that you have a true commitment because, you know, this is a hard gig. You know, you do need to be working, you know, hard, and there are lots of challenges along the way. Resilience is a really key aspect. So yes, the ability to demonstrate that you have a genuine commitment to creating positive social change. That you can articulate why the proposed fellowship will help you create that positive social change. That the plan that you have included in your application has a really clear and direct link to the initiative that you are seeking to do. Having said that, you know, what we are backing is you. We're not backing your initiative. And we have already seen, and we are completely comfortable with, the fact that once you've done your fellowship, your ideas actually change about what you need to achieve. And I'll tell you a bit more, an example about that in a minute. So what do I mean? It's really a question of you have an initiative. You need to have I guess a genuine sense of being open-minded about what where your fellowship will take you in terms of what you believe around your initiative. That you are engaged and supported by the community that you are seeking to impact, that there is genuine desire from the community that you're seeking to support and a real need that will come through on a number of elements through the application process, your telephone interviews, and your reference. And I should just mention reference checks. You are providing names as part of your application. Reference checks will be done during the ahead of the national panel process, so stage 4. Your initiative is innovative and meets an unmet need in the community. I think I've covered that. You have researched the fellowship opportunity and you have well considered the development. You have a well considered development plan. We'll have to make a change on that spelling there. Now, what do I mean by that? That when we read your application, we get a sense that you've really investigated what does it mean to be a Westpac scholar. You've investigated what it means to be part of the Westpac Bicentennial Foundation over the years to come, that you understand what we are seeking to achieve by offering this opportunity, so that there's a really a demonstrated understanding, and that your development plan is something that you've put some effort in terms of considering who you will meet with, the conferences you might go to, the places that you will visit. These are really important, that we understand that the ideas that are backing you in terms of your professional development have been thought through. And some of the things that have worked out really well in this space is make sure you engage with your stakeholders and have a conversation with them as to what they think you need to develop to help you be successful. And sometimes you might be surprised at what the response that you get and the opportunities that open out of that. That you have an ability and a preference to collaborate and network to achieve outcomes. This is important not only in terms of success in the achievement of your initiative, but also as part of being a lifelong member of the Westpac 100 Scholars Network. And what we see there is an example would be, we have seen people who apply who are hugely successful in what they have done, and it's all about how they have done it. And they have done that in isolation necessarily, or ability to articulate how they've been able to leverage and collaborate with others. And collaboration is not just necessarily about I collaborate with anyone who's dealing with youth mental health. Collaboration could be I'm collaborating with a university that might be doing research. I'm collaborating with others who are doing something similar in the area. So it's about that genuine desire to collaborate, because collaboration is going to be one of the key elements of success of the broader program for our Westpac scholars, which is the ability to collaborate across the 100 every year. Because out of that, we believe we will be able to unlock some of the bold ideas that we're looking to back. And that you have considered what it means to be a Westpac scholar. Now this, is an evolving concept. What does it mean to be a Westpac scholar? In the application guidelines, you will find that there are attributes that are detailed in there, and that there's a lot of information that can kind of help and guide you in that. But I believe that a Westpac scholar possesses a desire and potential to lead others. They're confident in taking on challenges, and they have a high level of responsibility and ownership. They are strong communicators, team players, and resilient, incredibly resilient. And they embrace diversity and openness. And this thread that goes throughout all of our Westpac scholars so strongly is this generosity of spirit and a strong desire to give back to Australia, which plays front and center into this particular category, I'm sure. So Westpac scholars believe in the power of collaboration, and they see this as a key driver in reaching their full potential. And they are energized by making these connections and building networks, and they have a keen desire to share ideas with others and to be challenged and to be inspired. So our expectation of a Westpac scholar, and I'm going to be completely upfront about this, that this fellowship is a real, it's a real joy and pleasure for us to be able to offer this. But it comes with responsibility for those who receive it, which is that you will be part of a community that you will give back into, which will be those colleagues of yours that you will meet at the summit in 2017. And it will be those that you support and help them along their social change fellowship journey in the years to come. So there is this real commitment that a Westpac scholar makes when taking this fellowship, which is to give back to the broader Westpac scholars community. So, we are looking for scholars who are excited by the opportunity to be part of this network, and who will actively engage and drive this network in the years to come. So this is going to be something that we sort of draw from your application. We will draw from your references. We will draw from your video and telephone interviews. But I just want to be upfront that there is a level of commitment and responsibility that we expect from you beyond your fellowship that will make this, I think, this program incredibly impactful for generations to come. So, as I mentioned, these aspects will be tested throughout the selection process, and maybe I'll just pause there for any questions.
There's just a couple that I like to draw out. Someone, if they're unsuccessful this time, are they able to apply in the future with the same idea?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then that's why we welcome the opportunity to give you feedback so you can help to refine that in the years to come.
And I guess in that same vein, if you were unsuccessful last time, there's absolutely a point in reapplying again, just keeping obviously in consideration what Susan has talked about and all the eligibility criteria.
Okay. Well, then let me just step into, we have, I think, spoken to the attributes. These can all be found, and the definition of which is included in the funding guidelines on the website.
And someone has just asked, so you've talked a lot about what a Westpac scholar looks like. What does it not look like?
It's about self. That would be one, where you have achieved, but you have achieved it all on your own. I think that the power of success, and I know will be able to talk to this, is about being willing and open to have those collaborative networks to leverage. And this particular fellowship, I have seen a lot of that already happening with the scholars and how they've interacted. It is not about your project and looking to have funding for your project. It is not about doing research but not having an idea about how you're going to be impactful with that. So that's, I guess, a couple of points. Now, let me just pass on to tips on your development plan. I'll skip through this so that we can now hear from as you will receive this presentation after this session. So, first off, make sure you're thinking about your personal development goals before you start your development plan, and thinking about what you think you need, and then go and engage with your stakeholders and hear about a little bit more about what they think you need, because I think you'll find that you'll get a richer sense of how you might grow from this experience. Review the funding guidelines and specifically the exclusions. So they're outlined in section 2.7 of the application guidelines. So I'm expecting that we won't see any applications around can I do an MBA or applications to fund your projects or medical research, for example. Part-time or full-time, everyone's got a lot going on in life outside this fellowship, so we are supportive and flexible about which way you go. Overseas travel must be conducted in a single block. So there we fund you to go overseas in one go, so think about that as you build out your development plan, and that is part of being more efficient about how we use the funds allocated. Please don't go anywhere dangerous. So no travel to countries level 3 or 4 and the DFAT, that's available on their website. Fellows must be covered by appropriate health and travel insurance, so if you haven't got any, make sure you include that in your development plan. The salary allowance, there is a policy available on our website. It is an important aspect to make sure you've read through thoroughly. And I'll leave, if there's any questions, I will leave that to the questions or alternatively looking on the website. Also, when traveling, per diem, trying to get a sense, what should I be asking just for, daily life? Well, there is a very good reference on the ATO's website on travel allowance rates, which gives you a sense of what you should be thinking about budgeting in the countries that you go for. And note that you are not tied to this. At the end of the day, you will be going through a process with the foundation and probably a representative that is more of a specialist in the field that you are doing your fellowship in to help you build out a very detailed development plan. Now let me just step through a couple of our social change fellows just to give you a sense of the people that we are funding, and they are from all walks of life. Let me start off with Mamadou. Mamadou is from Senegal, and he's devoted to working and improving the lives of the African community in Melbourne. And his aim is to work with young African community groups with a special interest in youth crime, and he wanted to develop a program around restorative practices for offenders to create positive social outcomes. So he's traveled through Victoria, the US, and Senegal to see community conferencing in action, to have training in restorative practices, to network with those he believes could be mentors in the field that he's looking to be impactful in. And what has come out of that is he's actually changed his idea. So rather than what he was doing, which was working on the problem in terms of once they're actually in a difficult youth crime situation and how to engage with them, he's actually looking at solving the problem. So he is looking and has learned from a group in California, the Homeboys, a social enterprise that he is now working with more closely to sort of refine his approach. So that is a great outcome. Now, that, mind you, these are still very early days for these fellows. This is only, he finished his probably only a month or two ago. So let's give him a chance to flourish. So Sarah Yates. So Sarah is a qualified psychologist, and she is a wife of a serving police officer with post-traumatic stress disorder. And she would like to reduce the rate of PTSD and its impact on partners and families. So what she has done is traveled in the US, Northern Territory, and Central Australia, building connections and researching into programs that are happening elsewhere in the world. And she has also spent the time visiting police stations throughout Central Australia and the Northern Territory to actually meet others who have lived with or living with post-traumatic stress disorder, to engage them and learn from them, and to augment her own experiences to create a program that will help those in this situation. Then we've got Joplin Higgins. Now, Joplin is a lawyer, and she's based in Singleton in New South Wales, Upper Hunter region. And her work, the majority of her legal work, is in helping victims of domestic violence. So she's looking to develop and facilitate a world-leading rehabilitation program for domestic violence offenders. So she has traveled through the US, and worked with experts working in batterer intervention programs and to analyse and assess these programs and their relevance in the Australian context. Now, this has led her to the establishment of a program in the Upper Hunter, which is now currently being delivered through the Upper Hunter services as she looks to establish her own foundation to continue the work. Now, should I pause for any questions?
I think we probably, in the interest of time, should hear from Om, and then we can look to questions after that.
Great. I think that's an excellent idea to hear from one of our social change fellows. So, now we met at a conference about, I guess over 2 years ago. 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I was to say I was so impressed by the work that you're doing in the Bhutanese community and your passion and drive to create a better life for those that are recently settled in Australia. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and share your story?
Thank you, Susan, and it's lovely to be able to talk to you guys. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Well, you just alluded to that I'm a former refugee from Bhutan in the Himalayas. I'm a telecommunication engineer by profession. I used to be the head of planning and development in Bhutan Telecom when I had to leave the country for political reasons, leaving behind my wife and 2.5-year-old daughter. I then spent the next 6 years volunteering, mainly focused on advocacy and the education of refugee children in the Bhutanese refugee camps in Nepal. I came to Australia in 1998, actually 18 years last week. So
Happy anniversary.
over this period, my career spans across government, working across government, business and the private not-for-profit sector, covering, different functions and areas such as, strategy development, planning and development, research analysis, training, and most importantly, volunteering and community development in particular. I'm also a graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Directors and also a fellow. And my area of interest in as a board member includes social innovation, sustainability, and diversity, and currently sit on the boards of Settlement Services International and Southwest Multicultural Services.
Wow, what a CV. And you didn't neglect to mention that you've also just recently been awarded the prestigious New South Wales Premier's Lifetime Community Service Award for your outstanding work in the Bhutanese community. So
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
I got to do a lot more. Thank you, Susan.
What have you used your fellowship for?
Whereas I'm a practitioner of a strength-based approach to community development, and as part of that, I have been very fortunate to be volunteering in refugee communities, and in the process, I've developed a bottom-up, holistic approach to refugee settlement, and as part of my fellowship, I'm working further on that. To explain that in more simple terms, what we are trying to do is, as we have seen, refugee settlement is a controversial issue, and there's a lot of debate around it, and we are looking at how can we make it more sustainable, how can we be able to help more refugees. And I think you alluded earlier in your briefing that community development involves a lot more than one sector, so it's a multifaceted sort of issue. And one of the things we are trying to do within the Bhutanese community, and one learning that I have, is about utilizing the strengths and assets that people bring in. And based on that, we work with them rather than serving them. So that's an approach that we are trying to work further. So my fellowship has two components. One is my personal development, which includes a mentoring program as well as training. And the second aspect is overseas travel to learn about how refugee settlement is done in other countries and take the learning from that and potentially publish that in a book form.
Oh, it's very exciting. And what impact has this fellowship had on you personally and on your project?
Immense. I don't know how do I describe this, because one, I think you are so fortunate to be able to be in a company of this, talented group of people. They're social innovators, there are technologists, and when we came together during that launch, I was sitting next to these young fellows, they are so excited about the technology. And if you look at the potential, if I've been following the US elections recently, Bernie Sanders, I think Senator Bernie Sanders, he came from a very small state of Vermont. I think, he's become a, like very well-known figure internationally. And what I've seen is what he did was effectively utilize social media to engage youth and take them along through this journey. So I see this huge potential of how do we do that, bring the technologies together with us in the social sector and drive social change and perhaps, help the broader society.
Right, yes. So you got a lot out of the Westpac Scholars Summit and meeting all the young techs.
Yes.
That's right.
And secondly, I think the international travel part has been, again, another, fascinating journey for me because one, of course, it helped me to learn so much about, how refugee settlement is done in other countries, so what learning we can take. But more importantly, what I found was that they were so interested in what we are doing here. We've actually got the New Zealand Red Cross wanting to come over for a study tour to visit us and see how we are doing things here. So it was a two-way process, and we've established a lot of contacts, I think, which will help us immensely in terms of what we do.
So you've got some new global contacts as a result of all this.
And a lot of global learning, and they instead want to learn from us as well. So there's a two-way learning process happening here. So. And a lot of people have asked me, why don't we have a Westpac here? So it was when I was in Canada, in US, in Norway, a lot of people actually asked me, why don't we have a Westpac here, so that we could have a similar sort of program. So it was fantastic.
Oh, good. And so what are your top, 3-5 tips for our social change fellow applicants?
Okay, when you talk about tips, I think I made a few notes there. I think one is about, I think you clarified that earlier, it's about you as an individual, but at the same time you need to have something to work on. So the way I worked and what I found useful was focusing on the impact that my idea will have, and then look at what development support I need. So it was looking at the idea first and how it will make an impact, and then looking at to deliver that impact or to further magnify that impact, what development support do I need. So I worked that way, and I think it was very helpful because initially I wasn't very comfortable applying for something for myself. I was more used to doing things for the broader community. So that was a good learning, but I think this webinar should help in that process for everybody to understand that it's about an individual development plan, but has to be backed up by some idea that you want to implement, and it has to be innovative. Number two, I think having referees, engage them very early, because sometimes if you don't have a referee who will articulate the idea that you want to bring forward, I think having a sort of a dumb referee would not be very helpful. So the referee should know as much as you know about the initiative that you want to deliver, and it's always a good idea to have a fallback option as well, because I found one of my referee was overseas, and then he was not contactable because he was traveling in countries where they didn't have proper communication. So I think it's always good to have a fallback option. So have two referees for both the expert and the community referee. Thirdly, I think the one interesting thing in this application was the word limit. I think that's something I initially sort of struggled. Then later on I realized that it was actually helping me to refine my idea more and more. So every time one word or extra, I had to think through again and see how do I cut that word out. But then it helped me to refine my idea further. So I would urge you to not to be daunted by that word limit, and don't get annoyed with it. Rather take it as a learning exercise. But because at the end of the day, even if you don't get the scholarship this time, I think it will really help you to define your idea as to what you're trying to do. And finally, I think don't be daunted by this whole rigorous process. I think there's a lot of benefit out of this. And as you alluded to, we've got this access to 100 scholars, and it's growing by 100 every year. And just spending this week, Monday and Tuesday, with the other 10 scholars, I think it was one of the best learning experience I have. I think half of what I had learned during my MBA course, I think. So spending time with this brilliant people, they have such fascinating ideas, and they question you so intensely, that in itself is a great asset to be part of, and it's such a privilege to be part of, and going around with the Westpac badge is a badge of honor.
Oh, thanks. Well, that's great, and it does. I get the sense that the scholars and their interactions with each other is where the great, the magic happens. So
yes.
it's great to hear that the sort of lifelong opportunities that the Westpac 100 gives you, get that already.
And the other thing is, like, it brings cross-sectoral people. Like, you got technologists, you got thinkers, PhDs, and social change fellows. So that cross-sectoral, melting pot is again another.
Excellent. Excellent. Right. Well, I think we're almost out of time.
We are out of time,
okay.
And there are a lot of questions that we didn't get to answer. Hopefully some of the examples around what OM has done and what some of the other fellows have done will kind of help clarify that project versus personal development question that keeps coming up. But we will endeavour to answer all of the questions and share them with you all. Maybe not tomorrow because there's quite a lot, but hopefully next week we can send something out to you all, and we'll share the link tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. And the best part is, I think Westpac has such a wonderful support team. I think we didn't have any webinar, but still, the team was excellent. So I think, guys, you can rest assured that, you got a lot of support there working with you rather than throwing in the application and waiting for a result. So
thank you, Om. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to attend this webinar today.
Thank you.